Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rumcast. This is the podcast that talks all things rum-related with the people who love and shape it. My name is John Gulla. With me, as always, is Will Hookinga. And Will, today we are back at it, back at the DAC Brack for round 2 for modern type of rums, which I'm really excited for. I think you are too.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of questions as to what's going to come out of this one. Well, actually, in some ways, it's a little bit similar in round one, to round one, in that I feel like there's a favorite. And part of doing this exercise is confirming whether should we just assume that this specific rum is going to win. In round one, which was our classic side of the bracket, that rum was Havana Club 3, which we kind of talked about at the outset of doing this whole thing. It's sort of the go-to ultimate classic daiquiri rum or all around the world, less so in the US because you can't buy it here, but still among, people in the know, they still know Havana Club 3. And it did end up being our favorite daiquiri on the classic side. And here in round 2 with the modern side of the bracket, I think that rum is Probitas, John, or Veritas, if you are outside of the US.
It's got to be the number one seed. And I think not only for me, I think probably for you, I'm going to put words in your mouth and say it's probably your number one seed, and many people's out there for good reason, right? We've talked about Probitas daiquiris for a long time on our show about how amazing they are, and I think that that's going to hold. The question for me is going to be, how close do some of these others get? And that's what I don't know.
Well, and just will we have a surprise favorite, That's part of what's fun about doing this. We mix in ones, and, we kind of did an informal poll on the Rumcast Patreon Discord community yesterday just to see what people thought. And it wasn't a foregone conclusion among our listeners that Probitas is going to win. Certainly some people thought so, but we'll share a few takes in a second.
It is in my heart, if I'm totally honest with you, Will, in my heart. But I am open. My palate is ready. I'm going to receive information on all of these and then figure it out along the way.
So we did classic daiquiris last time, which are defined by being light-bodied rums, largely column still. I think there was one exception that was a pot column blend. I think just about all were from Latin American countries. So these are those crisp, clean, refreshing daiquiris that don't have huge, bold, funky rum flavors or anything like that. So the modern side of the bracket, what do we mean with modern daiquiri rums and what makes these different? Why are we even calling them modern? Is that even a good label? What do you think?
No, but I challenge people to get a better label for them because that's a really tough thing. We talked about it a lot about like, what do we even call these? So I think we landed on modern for a few different reasons. And for me, I'll start with telling you what I think I'm looking for out of a modern rum and why I think it's an interesting bracket as opposed to like the traditional, right? You mentioned the traditional. We talked about our definition in that episode of being quaffable, crisp, clean, refreshing, not overpowering, very balanced. Here, what I think I'm looking for in a modern daiquiri rum or rum with a modern sense to it, like we're doing here, would be I'm looking for less about balance, I think, and more about interesting, right? So it does have to be balanced. Don't get me wrong. I can't say it's going to be like unbalanced, right? But I'm less concerned with it being really traditionally what I'm expecting and more concerned with like how fun, how interesting is it? How much can I really taste the rum contributing to the drink? All of that is what I'm looking for. And in many ways, I think this bracket can eclipse a traditional daiquiri. So I know we have talked about at the end of all of this that we're doing, maybe going back and trying our favorites from each bracket, and I'm excited to see. But first, we got to get through this one. So, Will, what are you thinking with modern?
Well, I think part of people can get a sense of our definition a little bit if we talk about the rums that we're featuring on this side of the bracket. So you can see, I'll go to my whiteboard that I've got over here, the official Rumcast Daiquiri Bracket 2 trademark whiteboard with all the matchups. And we've kind of divided this like we did last time, where we have sort of groups of 4 and they're going in head-to-head matchups, but there's some thought that went into like why certain rums are on each side. And I'll start on the left side, which what we have here, we have Banter White Rum, Planteray 3-star, Grander Cane Harvest, 10-1 white. And with one exception, what you see here are multi-country blends that feature a Jamaican component of some type. And when you add in the Jamaican component, a lot of times, not universally, but a lot of times, you're going to get those fruitier, funkier flavors that maybe aren't as strongly associated with the, classic style of daiquiri, that, clean, crisp, column still type rum. So we've got some pot still rums. The one exception on this side is the Grander Cane Harvest, which is kind of
Mhm.
like, even in this lineup of somewhat oddball daiquiri rums, this is maybe the oddest ball in that it's a it's a column still rum from Panama. But a lot of these Latin American rums that kind of make those column still light bodied rums, they make a light bodied column still rum, and then they make a heavy bodied column still rum, and they blend those together to get the final product, right? So Grander Cane Harvest is 100% just heavy column rum, and it's totally unaged. So that was the other thing about the classic side of the classic side of the bracket was, I think just about all of those rums were aged and then filtered.
Right.
So they're still
Right.
clear for the most part, but they have had some aging. So Grander Cane Harvest is 100% unaged. And it was kind of tough. Like most of these, we paired rums together for a reason. That was the only rum where it was like, I'm not sure what we're supposed to pair this with, because there's like, I do think it fits the modern, category that we've created here, because of all those like just oddities about it, but it was hard to pair it with one. So Banter White and Planteray 3 Star, these are both multi-country blends that have a Jamaican component. Banter White is 80 proof. Planteray is, I think, 41.2% ABV.
Mhm.
So like those both, I think, are going for the same thing. They're going for that widely available, more affordable style of rum, but it's not like a borderline neutral profile like a lot of
Exactly.
those classic daiquiris. There's more flavor in there. And then on this side, we kind of broke some rules we initially came up with, which originally it was going to be nothing aged, right? Only aged and filtered if we allow aged rums, but nothing that's just like aged and not filtered. And if we'd followed that rule, we wouldn't have been able to even include Probitas. And so it was like, if we're doing this, we have to bend the
Yeah.
rules in order to include Probitas. And if we allow in Probitas, that means we can allow in sums that include some lightly aged rums like Transcontinental Rum Line High Seas, Holmes Key Single Origin Fiji, Hamilton Breezeway Blend. And a lot of these were rums that we didn't initially have these in our set, but we heard from listeners in the Patreon community and just the general audience that were like really writing for Holmes Key Fiji, which won the People's Choice vote, and Hamilton Breezeway Blend had a lot of recommendations. High Seas did as well. So we kind of created this side of the bracket that has lightly aged components to it. So those kind of all go together to varying degrees. So
And some of those are my
um,
favorite daiquiris too.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that that's important at the end of the day. What we're trying to do is an exercise to look at what are not only the most prevalent out there daiquiri rums, but also the most kind in our thinking to now put them up head to head and figure out which ones are the best.
yeah. And Chris Franke of the Green Zone in the comments on our Patreon live stream says Probitas is the only one that balances the Jamaican. Parentheses, maybe Richard Seal should work for Sheer.
He
That's
gets a
an interesting
kickback.
idea. We'll have to throw that out to him next time. Yeah, I am interested to see how all of these balance the Jamaican. And speaking of which, one audible that we're having to make, John and I, we don't live in the same city. So like both of us getting all these rums has been kind of an endeavor because we don't want to have to each, buy 100% of them full bottles separately. And one thing finally got lost in the shuffle, which was 10 to 1 white, unfortunately, because I really was looking forward to seeing how that one did. However, we do both happen to have a bottle of another rum that we had discussed as a candidate for this, which is this one actually, Worthy Park Silver. So this will be replacing 10 to 1 white. So our apologies to the folks at 10 to 1.
Yeah, but like you were saying, I actually think that might be an interesting sub here. So I think this works out in our favor in terms of going up against Cane Harvest.
Another 100% unaged rum. It's really a 100% unaged pot rum from Jamaica going up against 100% unaged heavy column rum from Panama.
Right.
So that should be interesting. Okay, so we are going to start over here since I think this is our lowest ABV matchup of the whole bracket. So we thought
Hmm.
it would behoove us to start there. Oh, actually, before we start, John, did we want to go through any of the predictions from Patreon?
Oh yeah, let's talk about some of those. There were some really good thoughts that came out on the Patreon, on the Discord. There's a couple favorites, as we talked about. Probitas being one. Big Flax said Probitas is so distinctive compared to something like Three Star. I don't know how it wouldn't win unless there's a move for something a skosh more neutral tasting. Some of the other ones, somebody said cinnamon syrup. Said I'll put my money behind the Grander Cane Harvest, and then Tim. Ultimately, Fiji remains the best daiquiri I've ever had, although admittedly it's much better with Demerara syrup than simple or white. Any other ones, Will,
Yeah.
that we wanted to point out?
Well, I did, Austin had a great comment where he said the boys are going to have to do the Homeski Fiji TCRL High Seas matchup with 4 out of 5 senses blind to not pick their baby. And of course, the reference to that is, and John, I actually have the original bottle
I
of
do
this
too,
rum. I
actually.
still had one left.
Same.
But this was actually, longtime Rumcast listeners will know that this rum's origin story came from our first episode with Ian A. Shear, where we were like, hey, what if we blended, what if we like went through a blending exercise with y'all and kind of described this fake rum that we wish existed, and you guys could like actually show us what it's like when you go through this process with clients. And so they did. This was the blend they came up with. And then they were like, and we're actually going to send you the samples. And we were like, that's amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
And Eric K, slides into the DMs and he's like, hey guys, would you mind if I got a sample? If it's good, like it could be fun to release it. And we were like, that would be incredible. And that's what ended up happening. So on the back label, it still mentions the Rumcast and how this came out of that. We're not like financially involved with this at
Nope.
all, but it was, it came out of that thing. So could there be some bias? Possibly. We try to be as unbiased as possible and disclose any possible biases when we may have them.
Yeah, we do know it
Um,
is really good, and that's a testament to the fact it's still here, right? That
yeah,
episode, Will, was like what, 4 years ago, maybe more, and it's still on shelves now. So
yeah.
I think people
Pretty
like
cool
it.
to see. It's even gone through a bottle redesign and everything. Okay. Banner White, Planteray 3-star. Let's give a little backstory behind these rums. So Banter White, this is a pretty new blend that's come out. And I think part of the reason it's gotten buzz is because of involvement from Maggie Campbell, who was formerly the head distiller at Privateer and then went on to do some great work at Mount Gay in Barbados. She's been on the Rumcast several times. This is a rum. She helped blend this along with Darren and Chaz Vest, who are kind of the co-founders of American Cane, the larger company behind this. Darren's been on the podcast as well. And it was a collaboration with Ian A. Shear as well in developing the blend. It's an unaged blend of pot and column rums from the Dominican Republic and Jamaica. It's actually a molasses and cane juice blend, John. So I
Mhm.
believe that Dominican Republic component is cane juice. But I think it's, when we talked about the Barcelo
Yeah.
in the classic side of the bracket, I think it's that style of cane juice where it's less, grassy and pungent and more of almost like a clean profile. And it is an 80 proof rum as well. So again, starting on kind of the lower end of things. So I'm excited to dig into this one. And in the interest of disclosing potential biases as well, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when the company behind Banter was getting started, I did do some advising for them and kind of like helping them connect the dots in the rum world and everything. So just that's out there, obviously turn all the blinders on and everything as I dig into this, but just so everyone's aware.
I, however, have no such involvement.
So John's opinion, you can trust 100%. Mine, like, 70% probably.
I do think
Um,
Maggie's really cool, so there's that.
we do. We're fans of Maggie Campbell, so that is a potential bias. Oh, the other rum. John, do you want to tell us about Planteray 3-star and
Yeah.
why this is part of the lineup?
So, Planteray 3-star, some people there were commenting about it, I think, because, there is some bias maybe against Planteray's products because of some of the practices and some of the discussion on GI and some other topics that rum fans are probably aware of. However, I think it would have been, we would have been remiss to not have looked at this because I think there's no way to know, but probably my guess is in 4 out of 10 bars that you go to and you ask for a daiquiri, they may be using this Planteray 3-star product. It's
I would
very,
say, like,
very popular. Yeah,
context I would add is I think like if you go like to Applebee's or something and get a daiquiri, probably like that type of place isn't pouring this. But if
true.
it's like when I go to restaurants around Nashville and it's like a good restaurant, like and they have a decent bar program. The ubiquity of this rum is
Exactly.
insane to me. So, like, yeah, that's kind of part of why we wanted to include it in the lineup for sure.
It's hard to ignore, right? In terms
Yeah.
of, popularity, it's going to come out as one of the most popular rums for this purpose. So that's why it's here. It is a blend of molasses, pot, and column rums from Jamaica, Long Pond as the pot distillate, and Trinidad from TDL, a column still from Trinidad. And then you have the Barbados component, hence 3 stars from 3 different countries, is the word, WIRD, pot, and column. So like Will, you mentioned, this one's 41.2, so very close in ABV. This does have some added sugar to it. Very often we talk about how much added sugar is not something we want in here. I think in this case, it's a smaller amount, 8 grams per liter. So we're not talking about a huge amount, but I'm sure it does affect the end product. What we don't know, though, is what the
Oh,
ages of the components are, right?
yeah, we do know. So I was having trouble finding this on their website, but actually the label ended up. There's a
Ah,
lot of
there you go.
information on this label, John. So the one question I had was, what if the Trinidad component was aged and filtered? And it is. Yeah, that's Planteray 3-star in a nutshell. Richard Nicholson in the comments said Wonder Bread. I actually think that's kind of like an apt
It
comparison. Like,
is.
it's something that's everywhere and used by a lot of people. And we took a similar approach in round one, where it's like we didn't just include stuff that we know we're going to be fans of. Like, we included standard Bacardi and, just Bacardi Superior in round one, just to kind of see how does it stack up. So yeah, we ready to get mixing on these, John?
I'm adding ice to my shaker right now, and we can start this in just a second.
All right, picking up
Here
the
we go.
Banter Daiquiri
Pick it
first.
up. I'm going to go ahead and strain as best I can here. I know we had some talk about whether to strain or not for daiquiris, and there's some preferences there. I'm going to go ahead and do the double strain. I just prefer it.
John's going double strain. I'm going straight in. We're covering all the bases here. And really, our aim with this is consistency to our own preferences between the
Yeah.
daiquiris, as opposed to like both of us making them the exact same way. And I am doing a 2 ounces of rum, 3/4 ounce of lime juice, and half an ounce of 1-to-1 simple syrup made with regular sugar. John, I think you just have like a slight
Yeah.
difference in
I'm
yours, right?
doing almost the exact same build. The only difference is I did a 1.5 to 1 simple, so it's a little more rich than yours. But other than that, same ratios. So
All right.
go ahead, shake the other.
Yep, here we go.
Do it.
Feel extra pressure shaking a daiquiri in front of Chris Franke. Really feeling insecure right now.
He's definitely critiquing our form.
Oh, 100%.
These look like really, really traditional daiquiris to me in terms of the appearance. No real difference from our first traditional one.
All right. So here's
Banter
my Banter
starts,
daiquiri.
yeah, banter starts everything, right? Start with banter and then you go from there.
Cheers.
Cheers. My initial thoughts are I would be pleased with getting served this in any bar. I would say right now it's hearkening back to the part one that we did of traditional. It
Yep.
really, I'm not feeling like anything is sticking out in a bad way, but I'll also say I don't really know that I'm picking up much in a good way. Now, this could be my mindset, right? It could be a little bit that I'm starting in this modern bracket trying to look for things, and maybe that's part of my. So I need to go to the Planteray before I make up my mind with this.
The first thought that I had as well was, man, this feels like a classic profile daiquiri,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's actually, I think, an interesting lesson in just that you can't judge stuff solely off their label, right? Like, it's really easy to see this has Jamaican rum and that create an expectation in your head of what it's going to be, right?
right.
And this is not like a Probitas type level of Jamaica rum influence in here. I will say, when I'm looking for it, I can taste that kind of whisper of Jamaican fruitiness in there.
I'm not getting it quite as much, but I think maybe I'm also trying not to drink all of this because it is
Yeah,
good.
it's very
Um,
easy to drink. Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely what I feel like I'm getting is the Barcelo, or sorry, I should say the Dominican Republic influence.
Well, I get that influence in the sense that, like, it's not a very aggressive flavor profile, right? And so that to me is like when we made those Barcelo daiquiris, neither one
Yeah,
of us really liked, we didn't rate that one very high. And
right.
that to me was because it really had very little character. And here I get this kind of pineapple note
Oh,
towards
yeah, that's a good call.
the finish of the daiquiri, and that to me is where the Jamaica is coming in. So it's almost like the Dominican Republic is just kind of like laying sort of a foundation and allowing that subtle Jamaican influence to layer on top is kind of how I pick it up. But let's see how it compares to the Planteray 3-star.
All right, going for Planteray, here we go.
All right.
I've got a start of a thought here, which is kinda weird, but
Okay.
this is the first one I've had so far, including part 1, our 8 rums then, that feels not quite balanced, which is
This
weird.
daiquiri.
Yes, this is feeling like it's too limey to me and not
Interesting.
yeah, I'm not getting balance on this one. That's
Because when you said the first one that feels like it's not balanced, the first place my mind went naturally is that I think this is the only rum we've done on either side of the bracket that has added sugar. And so I thought you were going to say it feels too sweet.
no,
Which I wouldn't have necessarily agreed with because it doesn't read too sweet to me. Again, at the same time, I do less sugar in my daiquiris than lots of people do. I just do half an ounce of 1-to-1. It did read like drier than I was
dry,
expecting.
but, like, overly not well, yeah, because 'cause I'm saying it's unbalanced, it's overly citrused.
Okay.
It could have
It
been
was
user error here. It's possible. I wanna see where you're at.
well, it's another one that right away I was like, okay, well, this, even though the components don't necessarily say classic in the way that it's, built by the definition of classic that we were operating on, it's still profile wise, again, to me belongs on that side of the table. This is clean. That the Jamaica in this, I'm not super detecting that much.
I'm not detecting almost anything, which is odd. I was expecting to like this more than I do.
I was too, kind of. Um, and I'll be honest, it's weirdly not a rum that I'm that familiar with. Just, I mean, you know, we've shared our feelings that we have about Planteray on the podcast. There's things that they do, namely the GI stuff, that pushes me away from their products. So it's not one that I've had very much. And just because of how ubiquitous and popular it is, I was thinking like I'll probably end up like this. This should be pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it is falling flat to me.
I just sipped it neat out of the bottle just because 'cause I'm curious now. It is, a drier tasting. I'm getting maybe a little bit more either Trinidad or Barbados influence than Jamaica.
Mm,
A lot more, I would say. I mean, so this isn't bad. So let me just make sure I'm saying it's not like I would be like, "Nope, server, please take this back. I can't drink it." But it's the of my memory of this is now what, the 10th in our series, this feels like it is not hitting for me.
I would agree with that. So how do we compare these? They are head to head. Do you have a preference
Oh,
between the two?
100%. I'm still going back, but the bigger thing here is Banter has a rounder, better flavor.
Mm,
And you're right on that pineapple note on the end of the Banter, which is kinda nice. I still I don't think I would have guessed it blindly that it had Jamaica in the blend,
I do agree there.
but it is really good. Whereas the Planteray to me is a notch below for sure.
And one of the things we pointed this out some in the classic bracket, but I think it's also important to keep in mind like price points that these rums are designed, like what each rum is trying to do, right? And part of the reason we compared both of these is because both of these products are trying to be that like elevated above the Bacardi level, but still like a quality well rum that like a lot of places could serve at high volume. And so both bottles are priced pretty affordably. And I think with that in mind, they're lower proof as well. So for me, I feel like Banter is doing a better job like fulfilling that just because it does feel more balanced and well-rounded. Like you were saying, I agree. I like the pineapple note at the end. Whereas, yeah, I had a really similar experience with Planteray for you and just like very, very dry in not a way that totally works for me, which was
It
surprising.
it's getting better as I go. So my initial reaction was very much like, "No, no, thank you." And as
Yeah.
I'm trying to warm up to it, it's a little bit better than I initially sipped, but it's still a clear step behind the banter for me in terms of just flavor that you get out of it.
Do we need to what are you scoring these out of 10?
It's always hard at the beginning of something like this to
Yeah.
score because you want to leave yourself enough room, but you also don't want to feel like you're being too low on something. I think banter, I'm going to start with a 7 with room, and Planteray, I'm going with like a 4.5.
Yeah. I was thinking like between 7.5 for banter for me. Planteray, I put it at a 5. Like, I'm not like, oh God, but also there's things about it that I wish were different. But yeah, I would still finish the daiquiri if I didn't have to drink, try 8 of them today. So, all right, let's move on. Grander Cane Harvest, Worthy Park Silver. John, do you want to introduce Grander Cane Harvest? Because this was kind of one of the rums in this
I
lineup that
stumped for this.
I would say you championed to get this one in here. And I'm actually really glad it did end up in here. I'm excited to put it to the test.
I'm actually really excited too because I do feel like of the recent rums been released in the last, I don't know, I'm going to say 2 years or so, maybe even less, that this is one that I've found is what I would consider to be a contender for one of the best, if not the best, new daiquiri rum out there. So I was really excited to get it in. I pushed for it, like you said. Grander Cane Harvest is going to be from the Chichisa, I think, distillery in Panama. It's unaged molasses-based blend, 100% heavy column distillate. So we need to make sure, even though this is an unaged molasses rum, it is a column rum. It's a heavy column rum recipe. It's not a blend of light like we usually get, or all light sometimes. This is 48% ABV, so we are going to step it up a little bit in terms of ABV. To me, a 48% ABV in that range is a good range for a daiquiri rum. So that's yet another thing. I feel like this was kind of built for this application in a way.
And we
So
are putting this up against, this is our replacement for 10 to 1 white, which did not make it because just of a snafu trying to get all these rums together. But this was actually one that I think I stumped for a bit as well, John,
yeah,
because I know in the overproof bracket, which we're eventually going to get to, Worthy Park Overproof is going to be in there. And because of the presence of products like Worthy Park Overproof and its predecessor, Rum Bar Overproof, I think that this product, which is only 80 proof, it gets overlooked a little bit. And I overlooked this rum for a while. And once I actually got a bottle, I was like really pleased with how it works, what it brings to the table. It's not just a lower proof version of the rum in Worthy Park Overproof. So this is obviously from Worthy Park Distillery in Jamaica. And it is a 100% unaged pot still rum, 80 proof. So it is a bit of a ABV mismatch in
yeah,
this matchup. We've got 48% versus 40%. However, I do think this being like 100% Worthy Park pot still,
right. Helps it
going
out.
up against that. I know it's heavy Panamanian column rum, but still in terms of intensity of flavor, I think that kind of like evens things out a little bit. So I'm really excited to try that one out against this one. I'm really interested to see just like how much that Worthy Park banana comes through in that daiquiri. So let's go ahead and mix these up. All right, should we start Worthy Park or start Cane Harvest first?
I think Worthy Park because it's lower ABV and I want to give it as fair a shot.
Let's hold up the bottle and the DAC. Cheers.
Cheers. A much better nose.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Call it a daiquiri, call it a rum sour, maybe. Whatever it is, that's a great drink.
That is a really good drink. Still has that really refreshing like take, but
Yeah.
the presence of the rum and the influence of the rum on it is so much more there. It makes it more
Yeah.
fun.
You get that Worthy Park banana that I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's front and center. And then like the lime comes in and it almost creates a kind of banana lime, pineapple-y melange of flavors. It's
Melange.
it's
Good
great. A
word.
melange. It's got a melange going on, man.
It's
Grander?
really easy to drink with that amount of flavor. All right,
I know.
Grander, you going in? Yeah.
I'm having to like step away from the daiquiri, because I
Step
can't.
away from the daiquiri, sir.
I can't get too ahead of myself.
Yeah. All right,
A-
Grander.
And miles to go before we sleep. Okay. Yes, Cane Harvest. Let us see that bottle, John. All right. Cheers.
Cheers. So again, this really is giving me classic daiquiri vibes. Dry, a little on the dry side for me, but still packs a lot of flavor in there. I am surprised because it's that 8% increase in ABV, and I don't feel it at all compared to the Worthy Park at 40.
Yeah, I do. I feel it a little bit in the sense of alcohol presence, and this just feels like a little bit more of like a oomph, sort of.
Yeah,
But I think our instincts were correct in that for me, the intensity of flavor in the Worthy Park makes up for any perceived lack of
yeah,
presence
yeah,
because of the proof. And so in that sense, to me, these feel very even. It reminds me a little bit of the Diplomatico Planas
yeah,
on the classic side,
yeah,
which I know we had a few commenters. I think it was Tim in DC saying that he really felt that belonged on the modern side, which I think we totally saw that argument as well once we actually got into drinking it in the previous bracket. But this one reminds me of it. It does have a unique flavor, John, that I'm kind of having trouble putting into words. I will say, which is interesting because this is not an aged rum, but I get these like vanilla notes in it. And there's something that's a little bit, I wouldn't go as far as saying industrial, but it's almost like a pool water vibe. Like,
mm,
this is gonna sound like I think it sucks, but it's almost like a chlorinated sort of type thing in there, and it does like accentuate the lime nicely. It's got like nice body and presence.
yeah. I'm getting like meringue from this. So,
Oh yeah,
like, it's, like lemon meringue is more common than lime meringue, but like
that's a
a
good call.
lemon meringue is what I'm getting because there's like that chalkiness a little bit.
Chalkiness,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Oh, it's very
Um,
good. Yeah.
Chalky is a great that entered my mind like right away on my
Mhm.
first sip, and then I forgot about it. So thank you for bringing that back up. Um, yeah, it's it really is like a unique type of daiquiri rum. And I do agree that I think it belongs more in that classic profile, just because even with those notes that we mentioned, I think meringue is a great note too. I think that's kind of where my mind was going with vanilla, but that's a more kind of precise way of describing it, especially in how it interacts with the citrus. So I think even though it falls in that profile where it's like a little bit more of like a clean, not quite as intense flavor profile,
Yeah.
um, still what's there does stand out among that field that we might put it with.
So this is where I think the divide is showing for me the most between traditional daiquiri and rum sour
Right.
because right now, Grander, the cane harvest feels to me traditional daiquiri. Like and Tim was talking about Planus as kind of it's right on the borderline. So cane harvest and Planus are right up on that borderline of what is a traditional daiquiri for me. And then when you go to the Worthy Park and you AB these together, it's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
And the Worthy Park just brings so much more, but it's not what I would call a traditional daiquiri. So that's where it's hard for me to start. Well, we're in the modern bracket here, so I'm trying to think in that vein. Um, but I think that the Grander probably does better in our last bracket than in this one.
I agree. And again, this was one where like it's always going to be hard to compare some of these rums. Like again, it's really hard to compare Banter to Probitas or Holmes Key Fiji, because this is a much lower priced well type spirit, whereas these are significantly. I mean, these aren't $100 bottles or anything,
Right.
but they're a step up in price, and you're not just going to see them as well rums in most places. So it's always going to be hard to do these like cross bracket comparisons, but we were hoping to at least get like the rum to rum comparisons, make them make sense. And this is the one that is super tough for me because these rums are just fundamentally doing different things. The Worthy Park doesn't feel as much like a classic daiquiri, so I would probably give Cane Harvest the edge there. But since it's the modern bracket, my preference is the Worthy Park here.
I mean, I'm with you. I really wanted the Grander to be in it, but I think, like I said, it would have done better I think it would have placed second or third, or maybe third, probably in my mind, in our other traditional bracket.
Hmm.
Here, I'm with you. Like, if I want one of these 2 drinks, I think I'm ending up with the Worthy Park here, which is a surprise, honestly, to me. With the Grander, I'm gonna go 7.5, and again, that's in the idea or thinking of this modern bracket. And then with the Worthy Park, I'm gonna go like 8, 8. I'm struggling maybe even more because it is
Yeah.
very flavorful. I'm gonna stay at 8 for now, but again, with room.
I'm gonna go 7 for Cane Harvest, and I will also go 8 for Worthy Park.
Whenever we sync up, it's validating and simultaneously frustrating.
Yeah, we do. We have a good question from Chris here who said, "Why might the lime shine through too much in a rum? Couldn't you just add some simple to balance the lime?" And I do think that's a good call. Like, I think in an ideal world, we're probably tinkering the specs to the rum.
Right. Right.
Because you could probably go back to like Planteray, for example, where we both felt the lime was too much, it was too dry. You could probably add more simple and have a better daiquiri, and perhaps we'd be more satisfied with it that way. But I think part of this, it's not necessarily for our ratings to be the end all be all. It's to open a conversation about these rums and point that out. Like, when it happens, perhaps it would be better with a little more simple, dial in the flavor a little bit more.
It is a good call. And it brings to mind the question also of, like, for the Planteray product, well, I wonder how many times they've adjusted this blend knowing that it gets served by a lot of places and maybe that they're using a lot of simple because people like sweet, so they're adjusting their own recipe and blend over time.
That is true. And although I will say, John uses a little bit more sugar in his
Yep.
spec than I do in mine. And we both still felt we used the same amount of lime juice. We both still, kind of arrived at the same conclusion. So there is that. So now we're going to our sort of lightly aged side of the bracket. John, we are starting with Transcontinental Rum Line, High Seas,
Yep.
and Homesky Fiji.
All right. So the High Seas is a blend of aged Panama rums, unaged Jamaican from Hampden Distillery, and an unaged Grand Arome from Martinique. So nice, interesting blend there. We both had the High Seas product before. We both think it's really, no pun intended, high quality and nice overall. The Hampden and the Martinique rums would be molasses based, and this is coming in at 45% ABV. It's right around where we had the other ones. You want to tell them, Will, about the Homesky?
The Homesky Fiji, this is a blend of lightly aged pot and column still molasses rums from South Pacific Distilleries, the only distillery in Fiji as of now. I think there are plans for another one. Not sure where that
That's
project
what I've
stands right
heard.
now. 46% ABV, so 45% ABV to 46% ABV. This is the only rum, by the way, in this lineup, which is 100% aged. It's all lightly aged. I think nothing is older than 2 years, I'm pretty sure. But to my understanding, there is no unaged rum in this. And the other ones on this side of the bracket do have some. All right, we ready to shake these up?
Shake, shake, shake. Let's do it. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your daiquiri.
So we want to start with the high seas here, John, you think?
I, I, hmm. Uh, okay.
High seas,
High seas.
ahoy. Really well put together.
Yeah. Extremely well done.
This is the first one of the rums we've done today for me where I get the different blend
I
components
agree.
almost in waves. It's
Yep.
like, oh, there's the Jamaica. Oh, there's that Grand Arome,
Yep.
Oh, there's that oak structure from
Yep.
the Panama.
Said a different way, this is the first one that's in concert, right? It feels like
Hmm.
everything is working together, playing its own part in harmony with each other in a way that the result is greater than any one of the parts. So
Yeah.
well done here.
I wanted to go back to something Chris mentioned. He said lime also famously doesn't pair well with oak in case there are any oak notes in a rum. And I feel very seen with that comment because I've seen people talk over the years about like, making super fancy Mai Tais and stuff and putting like Appleton 21 in a Mai Tai. And I've tried that before.
Yeah.
And those drinks always come out so disgusting to me because the oak is like so strong and like oak plus citrus for me typically does not work at all. But I think in this case, the oak you get from that aged Panama rum, it's like just right. And obviously 21 years in Jamaica and 5 years or whatever. I don't remember the years on this one in Panama. It's definitely not 21 years. That's a world of difference. But I think this shows like how you can do oak in a rum that is meant for citrusy drinks and still it worked together well, because this one's really working for me.
Yep, I agree. It's just super, super solid.
All right, Fiji time.
Yes, Fiji time.
Homestay Fiji. Original label. All right, cheers.
Cheers. Wow.
Damn,
So,
it feels good to be back, Sean.
first thing I will say is these are worlds apart.
Yeah.
As in not in rating of quality, as in taste, right? Overall flavor, taste, what it's bringing and what it's doing. This one, to extend the metaphor perhaps too long, is much more like a Jimi Hendrix guitar solo where he's just fucking going for it
Yeah.
and everything he's doing is amazing and awesome and you're enjoying all of it. It's less of a concert for me in the sense of like more things happening at once and everybody playing their part. It's much more of a solo, but god dog, it's a good solo.
He's got the wah pedal going in there. He's
Exactly.
got the amp cranked. Yeah. That's interesting, because my first thought with this was actually, it was to me another daiquiri where I'm like, wow, there's different layers of flavor here. And the first thing that I get is that like marriage of Fiji fruitiness that's almost, it's sort of like a banana-ish Worthy Park adjacent type note, but doing its
Mm,
own thing. But then it's got that like slightly industrial Fiji like rubber quality
yeah.
to it that
Yeah.
comes in. Yeah. So I don't know, like it is the Jimi Hendrix guitar solo, but like he's playing some great rhythm under there. You've got you got the drum and bass cranking in the background as well. Everyone's playing their part here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a stellar drink. It is unique amongst all the daiquiris we've tried and that I can even remember trying, even not in this competition. It's like nothing else in terms of what it brings and how it brings it. I agree. I think you did a good job on the tasting notes. I also get a little it like naturally slides into pineapple for me. It's really a present rum in a daiquiri where the other two ingredients are just boosting it up and not doing something to shadow it.
This is going to sound a little silly because, like, obviously the Fiji rum daiquiri tastes like rums from South Pacific distilleries.
Yeah.
But the Worthy Park one was in a similar way where you drink it and you're just like, damn, that's fucking Worthy Park. And it's
Yeah.
great. This one, I'm like, damn, that's Fiji. Like, you
Yeah.
get the essence of the distillery in this rum to the point where, like, I think if someone had never had a South Pacific distilleries rum, you could just hand them the daiquiri. You don't even have to go to the neat spirit, and
Yeah.
you could give it to them in a drink and they would still be like, wow, I totally get the flavor profile and I taste what's really unique about this place. Obviously you could then go and pick up, different nuances and stuff trying it neat, but it just, that rum is there. You're getting a little bit of the weirdness about it, but also a lot of the fruity, approachable stuff in it.
Mm.
Yeah, still good.
It is still good. And both of these are really good.
Richard says, John, are you going to drain it and smash the glass, then light it on fire? Hendrix sour.
Oh, maybe if I was in an Airbnb, but not in my house. Airbnb right now is like banning me. They're like, nope, he can no
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah, your rating just went down half a star.
I think I've got my winner.
Okay. Well, why don't you go right ahead then?
It's really tough. And I do wonder, had we done it blind, how much changes? I would say not much. I just really love what the Fiji is doing. I think in a lot of other head-to-heads, the High Seas maybe does win. Here, I think for me, it's the Fiji. It's close, and maybe even closer than I already expected them to kind of be in competition, but it's pretty darn close. I'm gonna go with something like a 9 for the Fiji right now, and I think for the High Seas, I'm going 8.5.
All right. We're once again annoyingly close. I was at a 9 for the Fiji as well, and I am at an 8 for High Seas. Okay. So, last but not least, Probitas or Veritas, if you are not in the US, and Hamilton Breezeway blend. This is an interesting one where Breezeway blend was not initially something we were heavily
Yeah.
thinking about doing, but so many people, particularly on Patreon, brought this rum up as something we should really consider. And I think it's one that's really fun to do because in our classic side of the bracket, we did do Hamilton White Stash. And what this rum is actually a blend of White Stash and a blend of Hamilton Jamaican Pot Still Blonde rum, which is a really interesting rum. I always like between Jamaica Pot Still Black, Jamaica Pot Still Gold, and Jamaica Pot Still Blonde, I would always see like a million different things people would write online about those rums. And like, what is like, they're not aged at all. It's just caramel color, but it's different types of caramel in the black versus the gold. But like, wait, is the blonde actually aged? So I went to Ed's website, Caribbean Spirits with a hyphen.com, where he's got like all kinds of notes over the years on batches he's done and stuff. And what Jamaican Pot Still Blonde is. So after doing Pot Still Gold and Pot Still Black, which I believe were both unaged Worthy Park rums with different types of caramel color added to them, but he had some of those empty St. Lucia pot still rum barrels of, the legendary Hamilton St. Lucia bottlings that are still sought after. And he refilled a few of those with the base rum from that Jamaican rum that's used in those other bottles. And I think it aged for about 18 months in New York. And then they took like 12% 1-year-old light rum from Worthy Park aged in Jamaica and put that blend back in the barrels for another 5 to 6 months. So it's basically like this aged Worthy Park blend that was aged in these St. Lucia rum casks, which I just think is really cool. So it's that rum and then blended with White Stash and bottled at 42.5% ABV. White Stash, as a reminder, is a blend of rums from Trinidad, Dominican Republic, and Guyana. Bulk of the blend is from Trinidad. So that's what this is. And also why I think it kind of makes sense to do it with Probitas, which is also a rum that has a tamer style of rum with some Jamaican blended in on top of it. John, do you want to tell us about the classic Probitas?
The king has returned. Well, it never really left, so don't call it a comeback. But Probitas / Veritas. This is
We should note, by the way, this is not the new green label.
True.
This is the classic. So please continue.
Yes. So classic Probitas here. This is a blend of rums from Foursquare and Hampden, so Barbados and Jamaica. Unaged pot still rum from Hampden Distillery, and then unaged coffee still rum from Foursquare. Then it has a 2-year aged pot still component from Foursquare as well. This one is 47% ABV, so it's sitting up there with some of the higher ones from today in this modern bracket, but not the highest.
I thought this was interesting because when you pull up the tech sheet on Altamar Brand's website, because there is no official Foursquare website, just reminding everyone out there should be, there's not. So we rely on the Altamar Brand's tech sheet. The first line on the tech sheet is a style of rum that would have made your daiquiri in the 1930s, which I thought was really interesting. And again, John and I do not claim to be daiquiri historians. We leave that to the true daiquiri. Yeah, we know some, the true daiquiri aficionados. And we talked about this a little bit in round one, where it's like, okay, how far back are we going with classic daiquiri? Because if you go far back enough, like there were probably some pot stills being used in some of that rum. And if I'm being honest, I don't really know what those rums tasted like. So I think that's what they're getting at here. Basically, their contention is like, the rums that would have made your daiquiri in the 1930s were just going to be more flavor, like even the column still, aspects of them were going to be more flavorful than the huge multi-column, like borderline neutral spirit, like a Don Hugh Cristal, for example. So I think that's interesting. However, we put it in the modern side because there is something very modern about this. This is not a type of project that really was happening at all, where you had two independent Caribbean distilleries that come together and take product that never left the islands and they combined it together and put it out there. There's something very modern about that just because it hasn't been done in so long. So it's here for a reason. It needs no further introduction. Let's get to mixing these up, John.
Let's do it. This is one of those that honestly, like, I bought thinking that I was gonna make daiquiris with this rum, right? There are
Yeah.
others, but this one was definitely one of those. Although I think it tastes fine, neat, on its own, it actually tastes quite good. But I know that the purpose of this rum was really for daiquiris and some other mixed drinks, and that says a lot here.
I'm curious if anyone attending thinks that Breezeway blend has a shot. And I'm not trying to be like leading poor little innocent lamb like Breezeway blend to the slaughter here. This is a rum that has a ton of fans, and so I'm curious to see not only how it does against Probitas necessarily, but just like where it sits relative to all the rums that we've been trying. But if anyone is like, don't count it out, I'd love to know.
Some of the comments, Lyle said there is no shot for Hamilton Breezeway. No chance.
Well, and we should note, different price points
True.
with these
What
rums.
What's the Breezeway at usually? 24 to 29, whereas I think
Yeah,
the Probitas from memory is like in the 32 to 37 range.
I'm
Okay?
ready to mix.
Mixing. Let's get
Shake.
in
I'm ready to
the
shake.
mix.
I mean,
Shaking.
shaking. Okay. I think the move here is Breezeway blend
Yeah,
first, right?
Breezeway. Yep.
42.5% ABV. All right, let's hold it up. Cheers.
Cheers.
The last leg.
Honestly, I have to apologize to Mr. Hamilton because I was not given this much of a chance, and it is freaking great.
That's damn good.
That's really
Yeah.
good.
My first thought was just like it 100% has a seat at the same table as these last few rums that we've been discussing. Like I don't know if I'm not saying like, oh, I'd rate it the same as Fiji or whatever, but it's right there with Fiji High Seas, Worthy Park Silver. Yeah, the Jamaica flavor. I mean, I guess it's not surprising because this is Worthy Park rum that's in here.
It's
So,
really good.
but yeah, the Jamaica really punches through in a way that it didn't in some of the earlier blends, which I think is by design in those blends. It's much more present, not pleasant, but present in
I think it's
this.
pleasant as well.
I mean, it's pleasant too. Don't get me wrong.
No, that's well crafted as well. This one is not quite as like in concert the way I was describing the high seas. It's just what it's doing. It's another one that's doing it at a very high level. And what I'm getting a lot of fruitiness, but in a great way that really balances with the citrus. It's not overly sweet, but it's sweet enough so the balance is really there. But it's also interesting. So I'm getting almost best of both worlds type of feel here.
Do you get those St. Lucia casks at all, John?
Hmm. I I don't think so. I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
honest with myself, no. Um, I just get I know I like it.
Yeah. I couldn't pick out the specific St. Lucia influence in this daiquiri, but the Worthy Park influence is certainly there. You get the banana combining with the lime, you get those pineapple notes as well. This is like if someone is a little bit, more of a rum novice, and maybe there's someone who, you'd be a little scared giving them something that has like a big punch in the mouth type flavor, like you get with the Fiji to some extent. I think this one is a nice on ramp to more flavorful spirit
Yeah,
in this cocktail because you get it. It's definitely there. If you're a rum nerd, you'll be like, oh shit, yeah, I get that. And I think if you're not a rum nerd, you'll just think it tastes really great.
really good.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it's
well,
fun.
well
It's
done.
like funk with training wheels, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't planning on saying this, but easy, breezy, beautiful, Hamilton. Um, because that's honestly what
That's
it
what I
is.
think. That's what I think when I see Ed's mustache. Easy breezy,
Exactly.
beautiful. Yeah.
Hamilton. Yes, because it is easy, it is breezy, and it is beautiful in the sense of like what it brings. I'm
Yeah.
honestly, this is the most shocked and surprised I've been so far today in terms of like what this is bringing, what it's doing. I would crush this. It's really good.
All right. Let's
Let's
go
do it.
to
Finish strong.
the heavyweight Probitas. It's time, John.
It's time. The
All
king
right.
has returned.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, I love the nose even already.
Yep.
God, oh, it's so good. I hate to be that guy that is just like, oh yeah, duh, right? And there's a little bit of a lack of drama in having your favorite be your favorite and the favorite be your favorite. But it's just so good, and it's for a good reason. It brings an incredible balance of flavor. It is definitely different than a traditional daiquiri rum. You would not mistake this for a traditional daiquiri rum. In other words, this is the best rum sour on earth.
Unless you
For
just
me,
time traveled from the 1930s, perhaps.
maybe. I'll let Richard figure that one out.
Which Richard?
Sure.
It's an amazing drink. I mean, it's great. Honestly, it had been a little while, so this is my first Probitas daiquiri of the season, this year. And because I tend to mainly just drink daiquiris when it's warm outside, so it's very much like a 6 months of the year type drink for me. I'm not really slamming these in winter unless I'm traveling somewhere warm. Yeah, it's good to be reintroduced. It's phenomenal. It's a completely different type of Jamaican influence from all the other rums with Jamaican components that we've tried during this round. Partially, I think because, well, I was about to say this is the only Hampden,
No, yeah, I don't think
but
it
it's
is the
not
only.
because
No,
High Seas has Hampden in it.
right.
And in theory, I suppose Banter White could have Hampden in it. I'd be surprised if it did, just because I didn't taste Hampden really. It's got this sharpness to the Jamaican influence that's Worthy Park does banana in a way no one else does, and to me, Hampden does pineapple in a way nobody else does, and that comes through. You get those slight Hampton industrial notes as well, but not in an overwhelming way. It's really balanced out, I think, by the Barbados component. And, honestly, the Barbados pot still component is not something that I'd thought a lot about historically drinking this rum,
Yeah.
but there's a note in here that does remind me of some of the 100% Foursquare pot still releases that I've had from various independent bottlers over the years. It's almost like this earthy, mossy sort of influence to it. And it's subtle here. It's not jumping out of the glass or anything, but it's just working with all those components in a way that is really great.
Yeah.
Having said all that,
Yeah.
John, I'm not ready to just say this is bar none the best in the lineup. I think there's still a conversation to be had. For me, the Holmes Key Fiji is still right there with it in terms of I haven't decided which one's going to come out on top yet for me.
I think I have less doubt than you.
Long
You know,
sigh.
well, I'm trying to be honest with myself, right? Not just manufacture any drama. And right now, I think these two, and then the Homesky Fiji are the three best daiquiris I've had today, with the High Seas coming in a close fourth. I need to go back through them. I need to verify. But what I'm getting from this Probitas Veritas daiquiri is complex and yet elegant. And for it to be able to pull off both of those just feels like an amazing trick. So it's just so difficult to beat that. I knew I loved this daiquiri, but now this is our 16th daiquiri in the series. And I still think I love it as much or better than anything we've had. And again, I'll use the term daiquiri loosely, right? But it's hard not to give it 10. So in this category, I got to go 10 with this one. And surprisingly, because I honestly, when I looked at these brackets, was thinking Hamilton Breezeway is going to be crushed. It's got no chance. I think I'm putting that one in a 9 also. It's
Wow.
really good.
9 for Hamilton
It's
Breezeway.
really good. So those are my scores now. And then I want to go back and see, based on the other ones, if I'm going to adjust anything before I move forward. That said, I still don't know that anything's going to top the Probitas stack.
I'm going to put Breezeway Blend at an 8, which is the same score that I gave High Seas and the same score that I gave Worthy Park Silver. I
Yeah.
think all three of those rums to me are very successful at the space they're trying to occupy. And they come to it in very different ways. Which one I prefer would probably just depend on my mood at the time, which leads me to Probitas and Holmes Key Fiji, which is the real question to me, because these are the two that for me do this thing that I think is really hard, which is it's combining approachability and weirdness in a way that just works for lots of different audiences. They both, coincidentally, for me, combine fruity influences and industrial influences, which I think both Hampden and South Pacific distilleries are known for doing. Like they both have those aspects to their rums, and both of those qualities to me are present in each one. And it's just so hard for me to figure out which one I prefer right now.
I, I have less question than you. I get that you're working through it, and I actually think it's an apt point to make in terms of some of the industrial complexity there and the fruitiness on both the Probitas and the Holmes Key Fiji. So that's well pointed out. That said, just doing these back to back, the Probitas lingers longer and has more flavor. And I think that pushes it a little over the edge. It also, and this is tough, I may have to make it 3 times to make sure, but it feels slightly more sweeter to me, which is what I like subjectively. In terms of between these two, it's got a slight better sweetness balance.
Just some interesting comments to put here. We have to give a shout out to honestly everyone in the chat, but Chris Franke. It's been great having his expertise coming from the Green Zone. He's had the opportunity to try lots of different amazing rums, particularly in a cocktail context. And he said he recently tried a 1940s Bacardi Carta Blanca, and he says it was actually not far from Probitas. He says, I wonder if Probitas was at 44.5, if it wouldn't be spot on. So that's honestly pretty interesting to know. John, that may be something we have to do at some point, is hunt down some of these vintage Bacardi rums and see where they are on the spectrum, because just the idea of a Bacardi rum tasting like this is so fascinating to me. I think the only fair thing for me to do here is to quickly mix up one more Fiji DAC. I've got to do that quickly.
Yeah.
Then I'll be able to make my final call.
I think I'm going to let you do your thing. I've got my order pretty well set. What I'm really trying to decide on is I don't want to say bottom 4 is in a negative, but like 8th place through 4th place, I'm still deciding. But from 4th place, I think I'm going to go High Seas. For 3rd place, I'm going Hamilton Breezeway Blend, which I honestly am super surprised by. And it's a close 3rd place with Holmes Key Fiji for me in 2nd. And then Probitas is going to be number 1. So what Grander, the cane harvest, is doing is definitely different. We mentioned that earlier. It is unique. It's got like almost like breaking down sugarcane type of thing going on. Like what I would imagine that sugarcane that stayed out in the heat for 3 days and has started doing whatever process it's doing. That's the kind of vibe I get from it. So almost, I don't know what the right word is here, but
Decomposing sugarcane?
Thank you. Decomposing. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Keep in mind, I'm now, 10 daiquiris in. But yeah.
You've not finished all of them, just to be clear.
Yes, they're not finished, but I mean, over the span, we've imbibed well. And the Grander has that really like rotting, not quite rotting so rotting gives you a bad vibe. It's like this like aged fresh cane, if that makes any sense. Aged by meaning like it's not quite freshly cut. And so you get a little bit of that in there. And that's the closest I can get to the vibe it brings, which is actually quite good and unique. It's just so different than anything else that I find it almost in a class of its own and hard to compare.
I think for me, I kind of view this as I'm sort of putting these 3 rums together, the Banter White, Planteray 3-star, and Grander Cane Harvest.
Yeah.
Just because those are the 3 to me that, from a flavor profile standpoint, fit more in the classic daiquiri bracket that we did previously. More, clean, approachable, not super funky fruity going on. Of those, I think I would probably have Banter at the top and Planteray at the bottom.
Yeah.
Cane Harvest, though, it's different enough from these 2 rums, from Banter and Planteray, that it still almost feels like it needs to be in its own little separate weirdo category, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. You got to try. I would say if you're looking for like a everyday affordable rum that can like that is going to have that cleaner profile, that classic daiquiri profile. Like Banner is the one that is good for that, and Grander Cane Harvest is more like if you want something in that vein, but that is like a little bit of an oddball,
Yeah.
go for that.
If you're looking for something different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of the other ones, again, I did a whole spiel about Worthy Park Silver, High Seas, Breezeway Blend. To me, those are sort of interchangeable.
Hmm.
Use them depending on what you want at the moment, right? Which brings me back to Homesky Fiji and Probitas.
Okay.
Which when you have the Fiji daiquiri cold right out of the mixing tins as it's intended, all those notes really come through. The industrial, the fruity, it's all doing what it needs to do. When I was going back to it and it had come closer to room temp,
Hmm.
it was not as good as it
Mm.
is now. I mean, I feel like something needs to be a 10, because these are some of the best of this category that we have here. So it's like something needs to be a 10.
Doesn't have to
If
be, but I get
I mean,
what you're saying. Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be. We'll say if the Fiji is a 9.5 for me, it's like Probitas is a 9.4. It's like they're neck and neck for me.
Wow.
And because of that, I mean, I think, we should come to a consensus. I'm totally fine with crowning Probitas. I do think, like, if you presented all these rums to a bunch of rum nerds, I think Probitas is the one that people would get it would get the most votes as being the best of the bunch.
Even blind, because I would
Even
maintain
blind.
even blind it would. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think if you take the, you know, Richard Seal Foursquare fanboy, fangirl aspect out of it, I think
Yeah.
people would still pick this just strictly on the merits of it's
I
a
agree.
fucking great rum. So
I agree. And I do think I agree with you. Obviously, the Homeski Fiji is just a really great drink. It is different. It has its own place. So if I were, making my home bar for the first time again, I would want them both. But I think just by, like we said, by the neck, I would give it to Probitas. And if you're good with going with that, I think that's where we go. But I would say Homeski Fiji goes home with its head held high.
yeah, absolutely. It's funny that in both of our first two brackets, the ultimate conclusion has been, yeah, the one that we thought might be the best actually is probably the best.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting that comes out of this is all the other things that you learn along the way. Like for you, Breezeway Blend
Was
being
really
like
great.
the surprise of the lineup,
I need to buy
and
a bottle of that, like, that's how good
yeah,
it is. Yeah.
it's great. I think for me, it was the reiterating Worthy Park Silver as just like absolutely has a place in any bar, even if you already have Worthy Park Overproof.
Mm,
It's a different vibe. And if you just want that like distilled, approachable Worthy Park banana pop and to be able to use it in a cocktail context where you can use the full 2 ounces and not blow the drink out of the water,
yeah,
I think it's really great for that. But yeah, some damn good rums.
agreed. It's an interesting field. As we get out of the traditional and into these other types of rums, it's harder and harder to really group them in a way that makes sense. So the Grander Cane Harvest being the oddball, I get it. And, something like the Planteray 3-star, it really isn't bad. It's just in comparison to some of these others, I think it doesn't quite live up to them. So there's that. Like you said, the Worthy Park, it's a fantastic rum, and it makes a really good rum sour. Not a shocker, really, by anybody who knows Worthy Park and the quality of the product that they make. It's different, right? It's a different thing, even than Probitas, I would say. It's a am I in the mood for something that's a little bit more leaning into that Jamaican funk pot still type of thing? Or am I looking for something that's a little bit, it's going to bring plenty of flavor, but maybe want a little bit more of the industrial side or the industrial notes, and then you're going to lean into the Homesky Fiji or some of the other ones that you have that would give you that. So that's where the problem with this exercise is, if there's a problem, is we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole in a little bit
Yeah.
by doing this. But that's okay, because like you pointed out, we're learning along the way with doing it. And I think that's really the spirit of the exercise. So I'm not surprised from Probitas. I'm not surprised that the Homesky Fiji did as well as it did. But I am really interested to see where this continues to go as we move forward in, like, the cane juice bracket. How different
Oh
is that
yeah.
going to be? The overproof bracket. We know that's going to be a challenge in a certain way, but I'm really interested to see if those overproofs, are they going to overproof the rum in a daiquiri, or are they going to be able to stand up against some of these in the way that they bring that balance and elegance? So, I think we're at the midway point now, right? We're two brackets through. We got two left to go, and I'm really excited to see what comes next.
Good question here at the end from Richard Nicholson. He said, like what you're saying, but for a simple cocktail, is Probitas priced well for a rum sour?
Do you want the best rum sour?
Well, I bring it up because I think we haven't talked a lot about price, but I think it's fair to bring that up in that, like, Homesky Fiji, I believe, retails for close to $50 in most places. Probitas, as you said, anywhere from 32 to 37 or so. And it is tough to compare rums at that price point to ones that are like much closer to $20. So I think there is sort of an affordability range here, in that if I were to rank this based on affordability, it's like I'm moving Breezeway Blend, Silver, Worthy Park Silver, Banter White, like higher up in the rankings. But if money is no object, then I'm reverting, to what we just said.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas it's sort of profile dependent on what you're going for. But yeah, I think what we learned ultimately is, like, it seemed like there was only. I'm not trying to do this just to, like, beat up the obvious punching bag in the group, which is Planteray. But to me, that honestly was the one rum of the bunch that I felt disappointed in.
Yeah. I was expecting to like it more than I did. The banter, it was fine. It's very good, right? And if that was in the other field, I think it would do
Right.
well against those. Here, like we said, because we're stretching the bounds a little bit, I think it's a little bit tougher for it at 40 ABV, and because it's, kind of trying to play it clean, that going against some of these other ones is a tough task for it to do.
Yep.
Man, I'm tasting in the high seas, and that cinnamon note now is coming super strong. It's so interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, you really can't go wrong kind of building a bar around a lot of these rums. So I think that does it though, John. So we just want to give one final toast, send everyone off.
Let's do it. To
I'm
the
going to do
king.
that with I'm going to okay, I'm going to do it with Homesky Fiji, but
All right, I'm gonna do it to or with Probitas. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you on the next
cheers.
one.